And I'm asking Toby and Andre to join us again. So let's try and figure out if we can find a bridge between the two worlds that we talked about today. I mean, we talked about many different aspects, many different worlds. I'm gonna be looking out for some questions on my end. There's actually just a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure where it is. But yeah, so maybe let's do it like that. So when just deactivate the mic while not talking. All right, let's do that. Sweet. So I'll be waiting for a couple more questions. But yeah, so maybe you have a question for each other. I'm not sure. Otherwise, we are going to come up with some questions to talk about. Nothing to start with?
I have maybe not a question, but I just wanted to resonate on something that you said, and which I think is actually something that I come across a lot in my own space as well in different forms. I think you said so nicely that the incentive for governments are maybe different ones, or the incentive pay towards a different goal than what they want to achieve at the end of the day. And I find that so resonating because it's something that I come across somehow every day in software development as well. Like the question of what is the actual goal, and how can we get there, and can you describe the goal really accurately, or like does it also withstand critical questions basically? And I have the feeling maybe maybe these incentives do not, because maybe I don't know what the goal of the governments is necessarily. Is it like making advertisement for the country? Is it actually building sustainable businesses that stay and offer long-term jobs? And I don't know, there may be many incentives, but how you go about it might be very different depending on what what incentive you're following. And yeah, I don't know, I found this really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And most incentive schemes they're all well intended, right? So the governments put them in place to really help the economy, help businesses, and so on. But that I don't know the figures of non-movie or game incentives, but at least in the movie and games industry, what I've observed over the times that I've been in this business, it's well intended, but it doesn't really create the long-lasting, sustainable industry that you're trying to do. Because the moment the incentives are no longer there, companies pack up and move out. We've seen that in London, we've seen that in Vancouver, LA, you name it now, Texas, South Africa is offering great incentives. Okay, everybody, let's go to South Africa, and so on. And it really needs a rethinking, and I've took a look around globally. I don't, in terms of movie and games incentives. Switzerland actually has something that is almost actually there, but it's not applied yet to movies or games. They have a great program for patents, which is intellectual property, and it's an incentive based on the commercialization of it, not the creation, the commercialization of it. And if they just do a little adjustment and include in the intellectual property, music, movies, games, the creative side, which is also IP, then they actually have a really, in my opinion, good model that the rest of the world could look at and then potentially copy and see that can work to create a sustainable business, because it definitely has worked for patents. I mean, Switzerland is one of the most innovative countries. We don't have as many universities as the US, but in terms of innovation, it's significantly higher. And here the incentive work the right way. And so if you do that, then awards. I actually do have a question. It's not really a question or more of a comment, because I see a name here in the audience, Dominic. Do you work with Dominic? Because I know he's been around for a very long time um, as well. I think we've crossed courses many years ago.
I know him. I've worked with him personally for a long time, and I'm not sure if Toby is in, or probably also has been in contact with him. So yeah, it's uh, it's it's this guy.
Yeah,
The world is
absolutely.
small, right?
Yeah, I mean, also the FMX, I mean, which is also a sponsor here, is literally next door to our office. It's less than a 5-minute walk. So yeah, if you're ever here, it's a chance to stop by.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
Dominic has
actually,
been.
since I moved to Europe, I'm finally able to go to every FMX again. Yes, I haven't been in a few years, but I went last year. I went the year before. I'm going this year again. Yeah, no, I love it. It's a great conference.
Sweet, sweet. Um, I had an idea of a bridge also, because we've been talking about, let's say, the creative world, or let's say the creation of worlds for storytelling. And one aspect where I definitely see, let's say, geographic information or GIS data, and let's say also the management aspect of a facility, or of a, let's say, of a studio, or of a place where they can connect, is actually kind of geographic data, in the sense of location scouting for real world, let's say, film set replicas, reconstructions. That's one aspect. But on the other hand, there's also kind of the 3D scanning or creating of the Gaussian splats for, let's say, facility management, in the sense of the managerial aspects or the logistics of, let's say, studios, for example. So there's multiple aspects of, let's where all of the technologies actually can come together. So maybe Toby, you can uh, mention, or maybe you have seen some applications also. For example, I mean, there's, for example, ArcGIS Indoors, um, where the technology can or could also have an application for, let's say, for organizing the spaces themselves, let's say a virtual production stage, for example.
Yes, certainly. I'm not sure I have seen so many applications now, or personally. I mean, I really also don't have the overview of all the things that are going on, but that are where this is really used like that. But I mean, like managing indoor spaces. I mean, you called it already out with ArcGIS Indoors, is a huge topic, and also having live data there, knowing where which object or person is located, these type of things, managing also live events, things like that. I mean, I think there's like huge amount of applications. I mean, one of the things that directly jumped my mind, maybe a bit a different area than what you were thinking of, is that also I see more and more of like geospatial content also being used in creative production or industries. I don't know, like if I'm hosting the Super Bowl, may want to have some fly-in from space onto the stadium or whatever, right? Like these kind of use cases where I actually want to connect basically geospatial data. I mean, satellite images are everywhere. I think they're used. I mean, even Andre pointed out that he picked the height to plan his flight from satellite laser scans. So I think the worlds are really growing together, and it's I think also your use case of training people, right, for um, missions, in a virtual production environment, these type of things. So I think a lot of the things we do are also in disaster response. So after something happened and people actually need to respond, But I mean, if that could grow together, right?
Well, actually, I have a question for you, Tobias. Because as Matt just pointed out,
Like
and I
people
think
train and in a certain way and train on real scenario.
I think Toby, you're just like it's just stopped for a few seconds. I think so, because you were just explaining something, and then Andre had a question. But maybe Toby, if you could just reply kind of your last statement.
Yeah, sure. So basically, like just what I was thinking is that basically, if you can connect the two, I don't know, like train on if disaster was captured afterwards or something like that, then you could actually train on something real that happened, like a real scenario. I don't know, things like that. It would be, I think there's connection points that could be interesting. And of course, I mean, I see a lot of the technology that we use as well in the geospatial industry applied in slightly different ways. I mean, important different ways, but not so different at the end of the day in the creative industry, like drone captures and so on and so forth. So yeah.
All right, back to you, Andre. You had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Are you guys doing anything around forensics? And I really liked Andre's presentation at the beginning, where he said like he can go back to the tree during the different seasons and potentially different years and see it grow and see it change. And one of the things, I mean, we look around the world right now, there's multiple wars, and having the record of what things, because whenever we capture the word, that's today, right? It's a snapshot. But what about 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago? Are you thinking about or doing anything about preserving those captures for future? Hey, this city may not be around or in that arrangement in 20 years, but we do actually have a footprint of it from back then. Obviously, the data storage is an issue with that, but is that something you guys are already doing actively or looking at?
Yeah, it's a huge topic. In fact, I mean, not directly me or my extended team that we're working on, but our users certainly in many different ways, basically. So one huge part of GIS is like data management, right? Storing data, having a system of record, basically. And if I, for example, look at our aerial customers, basically, so the ones that actually fly their whole country in an aircraft in a 2-year cycle and take images of their whole country. And this is really happening. I mean, Germany does it on a 2-year cycle, like every European country does it, the US does it. It's basically everywhere being done, right? They are storing this data in like they have their defined standards, how this data needs to be stored. And there's even a lot of like digitization of old imagery happening. So they're trying to digitize images that was like analog captures and trying to process that data with today's technology that wasn't possible basically back in the day and draw comparisons. Like this, some examples that jump to my mind, but I think there's like probably a vast amount of examples that are out there of what people are doing. I know that like just archaeology is of course a huge aspect as well. Yeah.
It's almost
So
like
yeah, it's
a 4D digital twin, right?
yeah, like the time enablement component. I mean, yeah, both backwards and forwards. I think is so interesting. So that you can actually compare to what was, but you can also start making like hopefully it will enable you to make predictions into the future. I don't know if we recently built a demo of just tree growth where we had like multiple flights of the city and kind of compared how high the trees were right between the different um, captures, and then you can actually start forecasting into the future, right? Like if you have an understanding of how quickly they grew in the past, so hopefully that gives you a good indication. Yeah.
That's a typical GIS use case. I remember many years back when I was working at Esri, there was one of the kind of the tree canopies in for if you have a flight corridor at an let's say at a runway with at an airport. All of these things need to be managed. So kind of how fast do the trees grow? So you actually have to cut them down eventually. It's yeah, it's almost a logistical thing, but obviously makes sense to use, for example, 3D scans now. It used to be just point features with, I don't know, the age or something, and then you visualize it somehow in 2.5Ds, like 20 years ago. But now it absolutely makes sense to use these types of new technologies, which are probably also much more accurate, which is really cool. There's a question which came in from Andrea. So she writes, question for Tobias. Do you find Gaussian splats more applicable in the movie industry than in games?
Oh, I'm not sure if I'm super well suited to answer the question, to be honest. No, I haven't thought about it this way. I mean, I'm not sure that it is one or the other. I don't know. Maybe the two of you also have an opinion, but like in my mind, I mean, one of the benefits of Gaussian splats is that they're very easy to render, right? Like it's literally just rasterizing them, so you don't even need ray tracing in the most basic form. Only if you want to start like relighting and casting shadows and whatnot. So I think it's actually a technique that's quite widely applicable. Would be my my initial gut feeling, but I don't know if the experts have a different opinion.
One aspect which I would think about probably is because it's ultimately at least at the moment it's just point clouds, right? It's just points with attributes. So unless let's say if you want to interact with the object, you need to have a game engine which can actually kind of process the volumes if you want to, I don't know, have a collision object. I mean, there have been technical experimentation with that. I forgot what the name was, but many years ago it was like a point-based rendering system that was like infinite detail, where you have a very large environment, and then you can zoom in and you have every individual grain of a sand grain. I forgot what the technology was, but the thing there is it's a novel approach, but then how do you interact with the points? How do you bounce a beach ball of the geometry? How do you embed physics? How do you isolate the individual objects for, let's say, for gameplay? Especially for if you have large scale environments, extracting the elements would probably be like one challenge. But for I don't know, maybe there's potential for new types of gameplay where Gaussian splats could be absolutely fantastic, right? And there's definitely potential. Yeah, but I mean, it's a good question.
One challenge you have with Gaussian splatting is, Toby already mentioned it, is relighting, because you capture that lighting scenario, right? And unless your game or your movie is using exactly the same lighting setup, you're gonna have a mismatch. And I have not worked on any project where we captured reality and then had the same lighting set up in the studio, because a DOP is gonna light things the way he or she wants to light it. A creative director on a game is gonna creatively light things. So the Gaussian splat, it's a nice reference, but it's not really usable because of the lighting aspect of it. Maybe as a far background, um, you know, slightly blurred or something. That's your biggest challenge you need to overcome is lighting. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean that it's definitely the original form of what you gathered as the original data. That's it certainly has this um, let's say flaw, additional information that is context information that is baked into the lighting or reflections and so on. But in the first video which you saw today, and by Andre, uh, it's interesting that he kind of addressed exactly some of the tools that he's developing with his team to, for example, relight or remove some color hues like light, let's say skylighting and so on. So maybe if I don't know the tools, but maybe there's also kind of, you can say, okay, the sun is in this direction, and then do some, I don't know, ray marching in the volume, whatever, to try and remove some of the information that was originally scene specific, so you can actually extract that information. But I'm pretty sure they're in this direction of what you addressed, Andre. There's going to be tools developed specifically for that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, what we're doing in the lab right now is actually volume capture to address it. So doing it for, because you have a downside with point clouds, LiDAR scans, or Gaussian splatting, you get these not really usable meshes, right? And so what you want is when you capture something, well, I want to move this car. Well, you can't, oh, now somebody has to go in manually extract the car or create a mesh from it and so on. So where a volume capture can give you all of that. And that's now you have an actual 3D object. You can also then relight and you can animate, you have collisions, all of these things. But we're not quite at the commercial everyday capabilities. I say Gaussian splatting are much easier to create than volume captures today. Obviously, we can do it with really nice, setups in a studio, but for the everyday person, volume capture is still challenging, especially large environments. Right? One small little object, fine, but if you want to capture a large environment, that's. But I suspect within the next couple of years, that will also become standard available, probably in every phone. So you can just use your phone. I mean, you can already do depth maps and all kinds of things with your phone, and you'll be able to do volume captures that you can use on large scale with your phone probably within the next couple of years.
Yeah, I would agree. Or even like some sort of pre-trained machine learning models, which based on, let's say, the computer vision and depth estimation, and having been trained on lots of actual splats, to be able to extract like where is the boundary of the object by removing some of the points that don't actually belong, kind of the noise, right? So that's definitely going to be very, very helpful in extracting individual objects, and then probably kind of fill the parts where there are no splats, kind of just fill in the blanks.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that is also relevant, I mean, to your point that you said earlier, Matt, on like that Gaussians don't have an explicit surface encoded, right? And that is like fully true, right? With the geometry, it's very explicit. You have your triangles, and that's where your surface is. But actually, the information is implicitly encoded in the Gaussians, basically. So you can actually like there's tools out there, right, that work quite well to actually extract surface. So again, like a ISO surface or or like a triangle mesh from Gaussian splats, basically. And similarly, I mean, it's also what we do in simple terms in our tools, right? So that I can actually click on something in the Gaussian or measure on it, or so I actually need to figure out the depth, basically. So this works actually really well. It's just not explicit, and as you said, yeah, the tooling needs to evolve, right, to deal with it. And yeah, you can of course also think about ways of also overcoming it in the data structure, right? Who stops you from encoding both Gaussians and the surface in your data, or building hybrid data models, these type of things. I think all of this is possible. I think we're going to go probably somewhere in this direction actually at some point. Yeah.
So I didn't get any more questions now, but I think there was quite. We looked at the last question from pretty much all of the angles. So from my end, I just have one more question. Because let me check what the time it is. Yeah, we're a little bit past bedtime. No. So I just have one more question, and then I think we can slowly wrap it up. So open data, or getting, if there's a person, also hobbyist or a company that says, hey, this is really intriguing, but I don't want to really dive into the whole creation of Gaussian splats, for example, because I'm not on site. I don't want to deal with, I don't know, drone licensing legalities, because you need to have certain flying permits. You may have some legal issues because, or let's say in I don't know, I think it's in Finland or Norway, you're not allowed to, and also in certain protected buildings in the United States, you're not allowed to photograph certain buildings. But still, so there's some restrictions in getting access to the data. So which are, or maybe that also extends to you, Andre, this question. Do you guys know or can recommend some sources for good quality open data, or even data portals which already serve some Gaussian splat data?
Splat data, I'm, to be honest, not so sure.
Talk about business model.
I'm not so sure that there is something open where there's like a vast amount of data already available. I mean, so basically Esri has the ArcGIS Living Atlas. That's like one place where there's a lot of curated content, right? Open content, but I think there is not really a lot of Gaussian splat content as of yet. I mean, could be one space to watch, right? That hopefully develops into this direction. There's a lot of like open satellite data and imagery data and base maps, and yeah, also 3D meshes. So of a lot of big cities are openly available, but not as Gaussian splats. So I could imagine this is evolving.
Is there a way, just because I'm playing the audience perspective here, right? Is there an easy way to take a random 3D mesh which you have, for example, in a, I don't know, in a USD file which is textured? So you have your run-of-the-mill GLTF asset or something like that, just a 3D asset. How would you go ahead and just basically convert this to a Gaussian splat file? Because, or do you need to light it somehow, or are there ways to just basically scatter points on an asset and then somehow render it to extract a Gaussian splat, or are there tools for that? Because if there's no open data available yet, can the data be converted into Gaussian splats?
Surely, I don't have like the default tool that I can name. I don't know if you have, Andre.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's actually really simple. It's the whatever software you use to create a 3D object, because you clearly are able to render that 3D object, because you can see it in your viewport. So all you need to do is create images of that object from all different angles, and then from those images you can create a Gaussian splat. So that's the simplest way of doing that. And then, Tobii software will easily do that, right? Once you have these photographs.
Yeah. That certainly. I was just wondering if there is any like. I'm
That's
sure
such a
there is
hack,
tools
but
that do it. Like yeah. I mean,
love
your
it.
workflow would probably also work, Matt, right? That you start sampling and you pick color and your density is basically 1 wherever you have a surface, right? It's pretty obvious. So yeah.
Yeah. I just saw there's a couple of comments. Buehler wrote. I mean, he's at the source, right? So he's with digital production, so he deals with these news all the time. So he just mentioned there's plugins. One of them is, for example, atlux.1, atlux.1. And then Manolis just wrote they're also using that. Yeah, so ATLUX is just one of the tools, and obviously these things exist, but yeah, it's a new technology. Not everything is there yet. But there's a massive potential because it's a new technology, right?
I mean the pace at which Gaussian splats was adopted, I think cross industry is something that I've rarely seen in other technologies, to be honest. So it
It's
was
remarkable.
like exactly the paper is I think from 2023, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. So this is like the initial paper, and now we hear basically, and we talk like multiple industries know what it is. It's really not and have also released products that use it, right? So I think there's not something that you typically see. So yeah, I'm certain this will evolve further actually, and then I'm pretty sure also like whatever the representation is today is probably going to be different in 10 years from now. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah, so it's going to be a really interesting space to watch. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Sweet. No more questions from my end. I didn't get more questions also from the audience. Last chance. Any last comments from you guys? Toby and Andre? All good?
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. All right. Sweet. I would say let's leave it at a high mark. Toby, last comment from you.
Same as Andres. Thank you very much for hosting it and for guiding us through the days before and also today.
You are most welcome, and thank you so much for your invaluable inputs. I think we shared a ton of super important knowledge today, and that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the spirit.